I'm Cowboy Chris, and welcome to Have Game Will Ramble, where this week we're going to pay a visit to the Gears of War universe and the war-torn, destroyed beauty of the planet Sierra. Gears of War Reloaded is a redux of a remaster of Epic's 2006 masterpiece. I've heard a lot of folks bemoan the effects Gears of War had on the gaming scene, with the rising prevalence of cover-based shooting and the brown and gritty filter that defined the 7th generation after its release. But you don't have an impact on the industry as a whole like that if you didn't have something special to begin with. Gears of War spawned dozens of copycats that never quite cracked the secret sauce, and even now, almost 20 years later, it's a joy to revisit it and see how far ahead of its time it really was, as few titles other than its direct sequels have made firing from behind a chest-high wall feel as fluid and natural. It should be familiar to anyone who's spent time in Microsoft's console sphere since the 360, but with its debut on the PlayStation, and a new generation able to experience it for the first time, I thought I'd take some time to revisit it myself, and ramble about it for a few. At the heart of Reloaded is Epic's original vision from 2006. The Ultimate Edition that this release stems from was built up to feel as much like the original game as possible, just within a new version of the Unreal Engine, and with a fresh coat of paint. There's no real difference between the Ultimate Edition and Reloaded as far as I noticed, outside of some weapon tuning, but Reloaded does seem to play nicer on my PC than Ultimate did, so there is at least some improvement. Movement maintains most of the stiffness that was ironed out and polished in Gears of War 2 and 3 for the sake of authenticity, including cover that's just a little too sticky, and limited roadie run distance and control. Ah, the roadie run. One of the hallmarks of the Gears gameplay loop. Did you ever go to a concert and the road crew had to pop out on stage to fix something, and they did that awkward low run to not disturb the show? It serves as the Gears series equivalent of sprinting, and is a refreshing change from the first-person shooter style of click the stick to run for 5 seconds before dying of smoker's cough. The fact that the humans of Sierra look more like Tonka toys makes these low agile runs even more entertaining to watch. I describe Gears of War 1's controls as stiff, but if you're a newcomer to the series, you should not feel anything is missing, and you'll settle in pretty quickly. Just know that it does get marginally better with each installment if you decide to pursue the sequels. Also of note is the active reload, which is a mechanic that is unique to the Gears of War series, that gives a lot of extra flavor to the gameplay. A well-timed reload will give you a damage boost and a faster reload, whereas a poorly timed tap will jam the gun and leave you vulnerable for a few seconds. This is one of those mechanics I wanted to see more of outside of the Gears of War franchise, reloading going beyond a simple button press to being a minigame of sorts. The campaign is a perfectly paced 8-hour affair, and sets the stage for the humans of Sierra's desperate last stand after 14 years of fighting the overwhelming Locust Horde. We take control of Bender,
Me?
Marcus Phoenix,
I'm so embarrassed. I wish everybody else was dead.
a disgraced war hero sprung from prison for one final Hail Mary attempt at turning the tide of war in humanity's favor. Joining you on your quest are your best friend Dominic Santiago, either as an AI companion or as an actual friend if you're so lucky, as well as the dynamic duo of sarcastic tech expert Damon Baird, voiced by the always excellent Fred Tatasciore, and ex-Thrashball superstar Augustus Coltrane Cole.
Whoa!
The squad banter throughout the campaign is still great after all these years. I remember articles complaining about how bro-y and over-the-top Gears of War could be, which it kind of is, but it's still very charming.
You hear that? What the hell's that sound?
It's just the wind.
Yeah, right. When's the last time the wind said hostiles to you?
For first-timers, the campaign alone is worth the price of admission. Set over 5 acts, it rarely pulls the same trick twice, and keeps both the settings and encounters fresh throughout the runtime. In the same way that active reloads make the mundane act of reloading your gun feel more alive with player agency, the same goes for encounters, which usually give you more than one option to choose for flanking the enemy and opportunities to cut encounters short by breaking off enemy reinforcements with a well-placed grenade down an E-hole. E-hole being short for emergence hole, the tunnels that erupt out of the ground for Locust to spew up and attack. A lot of the appeal of the Gears series comes from the Locust themselves as villains. I'd argue more so than even the Lancer's famous chainsaw bayonet. Hell, I'm such a fan of the Locust that I usually opt to drop the Lancer and the stock pistol for the Locust Hammerburst assault rifle and Baltog pistol, since they hit a lot harder, and in the case of the Bolt Hawk, it also happens to be a badass revolver. Even playing Locust in multiplayer is a good time. I think Command & Conquer is the only other series where I've been as excited to play as the bad guys as I am the heroes. The lore for the Locust goes deep between the sequels as well as the novels and the comic series, which are all worth your time if you're enticed to dig deeper. But for now, the only details you need are that they are underground-dwelling humanoids hell-bent on exterminating the last of the human race, and it's your job to stop them. If that doesn't sell you on running through the campaign, here's another angle. Gears of War 1, 2, and 3 are the only games Mars has finished since I've known her. Now granted, I had to drag her through in co-op, but she did finish them. After the campaign, the more adventurous of you will travel forth into the multiplayer realms. Gears of War famously has a steep learning curve for the multiplayer, as the campaign's focus on mid-range cover is largely overtaken by aggressive close-quarter shotgun play with the famous, or infamous depending on your outlook, Nasher shotgun. The offerings here are kept largely as they were in the original, except for the addition of Team Deathmatch and some additional maps. Gears of War was equally famous for its peer-to-peer netcode that gave whoever was crowned the host a considerable advantage over the other players. I could still hear the cries of host shenanigans from the 360. This time around we have dedicated servers, though I'm not sure if it's just opening week jitters or issues with the netcode, but it does still feel like the 360 multiplayer occasionally, where shots will land several seconds after firing, and enemies will shrug off what should have been a fatal Nasher blast. But overall it's still a very fun and satisfying experience. For anyone venturing out online for the first time, the best advice I can give is to stick with it. Those first few games are going to be frustrating, but work on your active reloads and Nasher play, learn the maps, and always challenge the enemy team for grenades and power weapons. And don't feel bad when you get an angry message for using the chainsaw bayonet on a sweaty tryhard here and there. The only real missed opportunity here is the lack of inclusion of bots for private multiplayer, which became a staple in subsequent entries. The developers broke the original's design to include Gears of War 3's Team Deathmatch game mode, so some multiplayer bots a la Gears of War 2 would have been a reasonable addition. Beyond that, Horde mode, as originally made famous by Gears of War 2, would have also made a fun addition to truly complete this package. Gears Reloaded is overall a worthy update to the 360 original, and to the Sony crowd who gets to experience it for the first time, I both envy you and give a full recommendation to pick it up. May you not have to wait as long as we have for Gears of War 2 and 3 to get some of the TLC the way 1 has. With that, can we talk briefly about how much Microsoft and the Coalition have mismanaged Gears of War to date? As I downloaded Gears Reloaded, I took a look at my calendar and was shocked when I realized that we were nearly 6 years to the day since the release of Gears 5, with no estimate of a release for the conclusion to the new trilogy. We also have a teaser trailer for Gears of War E-Day that has since been followed up with nothing but silence. The icing on the cake is a second remaster for Gears of War 1, while 2 and 3 are still stuck as 360 exclusives. The lack of a remaster for the sequel stings all the more when Halo has had its complete collection available on modern hardware for almost 5 years. Revisiting the campaign is always a pleasure, and renewing interest in Gears 1 multiplayer is a fun throwback and will hopefully find the same success that it did on the original Xbox 360 release. But I fear they have not expanded Gears 1's offerings enough to sustain long-term interest, and since support for Gears of War 5 multiplayer has also stopped, it feels like I won't be long before I'm really itching for more Gears content again. Here's hoping after its release the Coalition will get in gear, no pun intended, and we'll get some more to talk about soon. Until then, grab some ammo and stay in cover, and I'll see you on the next episode of Have Game Will Ramble.